growing up, going through school, there was a lot of classes that I just simply was not interested in. I didn't like mathematics and I didn't like to write papers in English. But one class that I did like was world history. I loved to learn about all the ancient empires and the rulers of that time. Even to this day, I still watch Netflix series and documentaries about world history. I love to learn about Julius Caesar, Achilles, and all the great warriors, but one warrior who really stuck out to me was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great accomplished a lot at a very young age, and that was something that I admire about him. So what I want to do is walk through his birth and his early life, go through his when he becomes king and all his conquests, and then go through kind of his downfall, which ultimately will lead to his death. So starting out, according to Britannica.com, Alexander the Great was born on July 20th, 356 BC in Macedonia by King Philip II, who was the king at the time, and his mother Olympias. So Alexander the Great, at the age of 13, was being taught by Aristotle, who we all know is a great Greek philosopher and very famous even to this day. Aristotle taught him literature, philosophy, politics, and science. So I assume Alexander was a pretty smart kid. I have here a picture of a statue of Aristotle, which is kind of what he would have looked like during that time. So at the age of 16, King Philip goes on a military expedition and leaves his entire kingdom to Alexander to run. Well, during that time, Alexander actually leads an army to the Battle of Chorona, where he conquers the land of Thebes at the age of 16. So he continues to rule Macedonia. King Philip returns. When he returns, he divorces Olympias, his wife, which causes Olympias and Alexander to flee back to Olympias's hometown. King Philip goes on to marry a new wife and have more children. Well, in 336 BC, Alexander would have been about 20 years old at this time, King Philip is assassinated. So Alexander returns to Macedonia, and because of his fame with the Macedonian army, because of his prior battles, he declares himself to be the king of Macedonia. Well, of course, there was an issue with King Philip's new children. So what Alexander, with the help of his mother Olympias, do is they kill off all of his opposition, and Alexander is now the king of Macedonia. So he wastes no time and he begins his conquests. A cool story that I found as a legend I found on history.com was called the Gordian Knot. Now the Gordian Knot was a knot that was it was believed to be unbreakable. So for years and years, people were using their hands trying to break the knot. Well, the legend says whoever breaks the knot will go on to conquer all of Asia. So Alexander, with his great wisdom, goes to the knot, uses his sword, and cuts it open. And lo and behold, he actually goes on to conquer Asia. So I have a picture here of Alexander using the sword, you can see there, to cut the knot. It's a pretty cool painting, actually. So Alexander goes on, starts his conquest. He conquers Persia, he conquers Egypt, and after conquering Egypt, he created the city of Alexandria, which is still a city to this day, according to biography.com. And then he declares himself the king of Babylon, king of Asia, and the king of the four quarters of the world. That's what he was known as. So after all this conquering that he does, he's not satisfied. He tries to continue into the land of Genghis, but his army refused. I'm sure they were wore out by that time. So they return back to Macedonia, where Alexander starts to adopt Persian principles and customs, and he actually orders the Macedonians to start marrying Persian princesses to start integrating each other. Well, the Macedonians don't like this, and they make it known to Alexander. So what Alexander does to please the Macedonians, he goes and he kills 13 Persian military leaders. So there's obviously some tension there. which causes Alexander to start having severe paranoia. And through his own paranoia, he goes on to kill some of his own Macedonian military leaders. And I'm sure the people at this time just had enough. Well, eventually, through Alexander starts to think about conquering Rome. And during this time, he died on June 323 BC, and he was only 32 years old at the time. So he died pretty young. So all of those accomplishments, he was a young guy. There's different speculations of what he would have died from, malaria or poison, or things like that. And I actually have a picture of all of the land that Alexander conquered during that time. Now up here at the top is going to be where he started, in Macedonia. And look at all the land that he conquered. It's pretty incredible. So that is the life of Alexander, going from birth through his king, him becoming king and his rule, and then eventually to his death. Thank you.